Hello, and welcome to Christ-Centered Reflections. I'm Reverend Stephen Lawrence, and this is Reverend Donna Jones and Reverend Jay Gardner. We're here at White Rock Baptist Church, and we're beginning a series of reflections that we hope will be helpful to you as you live your life in Jesus Christ. We're here today in what we used to call the old library, or the Lucy A. Johnson Library. But Lucy Johnson, she came here with 4 children, and she joined White Rock under Reverend Goff. And he's 1909 to 1931, something like that. And the report about her is that she was a very active member, very supportive member. She loved Pastor and Mrs. Shaw, but she was a day worker. Even after she retired that work as a domestic, her granddaughter tells me that she would go to her employer and ask to work for a day so that she could have money to give for Women's Day. So that's like the level of her support. It's really great. And she was supportive during the fire and during the times we were wandering before 1958. And in 1958, we moved into here in the second Sunday in July. And she's passed, and hers is the first funeral held at this location. And this room, after a while, bears her name here. The only piece that I didn't know, and I still not tied Pastor down on how this room came to be named for her, because it could be that this is the first room that we named after a person.
So was this initially the Lucy Johnson Library, or?
This was, the plaque that used to hang over the door that now hangs in the other place said Lucy A. Johnson Library. And you remember, this used to be a Sunday school, and we had Sunday school class in here.
Get your little blackboard right there.
The Sunday school class was in here. The Sunday school class was in the library.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were bookshelves, and there were books on the shelves. I don't ever remember using it so much as a library as much as a classroom. But there were 15-year-olds in this room. There were three classes of 15-year-olds, and after a while it became an archive room. We kept photos here and archival material. The media ministry kept its collection here and did its duplication in here. That really is part of this interesting piece of grace that God gives to us, because about a year ago or so, the wooden beams fell in through this drop ceiling.
This ceiling is a renovation.
Yeah, this ceiling is part of the renovation too. But those beams crushed the room. If anybody had been in the room making tapes at the time, they would have been done. But the other really interesting thing, I really love this, when you look in the debris, you will see nails that were holding the beams into the wall. And those nails are partially rusted and partially clean, which lets us know that for a long time, those beams had been slipping away.
Wow.
And that at some point,
so when we were having Sunday school here.
Yes. The possibility of that roof falling on us was probably as real as it was a year ago.
Yeah.
So God was holding the room together.
I'm liking the chapel prayer room. Apparently God lives here.
Yes, and the room is now well done. And then you look around, this is now a renovated space. It doesn't look like the classroom. It doesn't look like the media room. It has a brand new look. It has been renovated.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a difference between renovation and transformation. And I'm thinking about a story in the Gospel of John where Jesus and Nicodemus are talking. And Nicodemus was a leader of the Jews, member of the Sanhedrin. He comes to Jesus at night, so he's clandestine. He's on the down low. He doesn't want people to know that he's supporting Jesus. And he comes complimenting Jesus. He says, we know you're from God because nobody can do the things you do unless they come from God. But truly, it's not a compliment. It's a bit of arrogance, because he's saying that I've done the math and I figured out who you are just by what I've seen. And Jesus wants to suggest that true faith is something that comes from a deeper conversation, a longer conversation. So Jesus and Nicodemus have this longer conversation because they have a misunderstanding over a word. Jesus says to Nicodemus, you must be born, and then he says, anothen. And anothen is a Greek word that has a variety of meanings. It can mean either to be born again or to be born from above. So Jesus and Nicodemus go through this long conversation saying, you must be born from above. And Nicodemus says, well, how can I be born again? They're misunderstanding each other. Nicodemus's understanding of born again is renovation. It's taking stuff that is and making something new out of it. It's what happened to this room. It's been renewed. It's been repurposed, reordered, rejuvenated. But Jesus is talking about birth from above. which is not making something new out of something old, but making something new from a new source. And that's different. That's transformation. Renovation and transformation, I don't think are the same thing. And so now this room's been renovated, but has it been transformed? When we think about what we're going to do here, we have a long list of stuff we've always done here. How do we get that breath of the Spirit that lets us look at this space in a new way and not just renovate it, but transform it? Now, you had a good idea about another kind of use for this space.
Yeah, a chapel.
A chapel.
And in a way, what I understand from my friends over at St. Matthew's United Methodist Church is that St. Matthew's was the original owner of this space, and White Rock bought the church from St. Matthew's. And when it was St. Matthew's, this was a chapel, and they would do weddings, small services, prayer meetings in this space.
Yeah.
So that sense of it having, and when I love the grace story around the beams not falling, maybe because of all the prayers that have already gone up in this room, even the beams were not going to hurt anybody. But that sense that perhaps even thinking of the room around chapel space. And a transformation that happens with prayer. So if it was space that could be used for people from either the church or the community that just want to come in and pray sometimes, or somebody that wants to have a small wedding, they don't need to be in a big sanctuary, but the way the space is set up, it has that little stage area. You could have a small wedding here. It just could be used in a way that spiritually transforms people, which makes sense for the renovation, moving renovation to transformation.
I'm thinking about, we call this place a prayer space, the prayer room. And I'm struck, we're talking about the Malawi trip that we're trying to do. And we're saying we want people to be in constant prayer while others are traveling. And I'm just thinking about what would that look like to be in a place, and probably not only here, but just in general, in whatever work you're doing, that there are people sequestered somewhere
praying for you,
and they're praying for you. And so if we're in the middle of worship, we know that there are people up here who are just praying.
Now,
So what if this is a space where people come and there's quiet and prayer and meditation and preparation for worship?
What could happen also is, depending on how the room is decorated, we know in advance what the sermon is going to be and what the scriptures are going to be. So if we had, the sermon, if we had the Bible open to whatever the pastor was going to be preaching on, if we had soft music that kind of went with that theme, when people came into the prayer room, they could not only pray, but they could pray for the service, they could pray around the scriptures that are going to be lifted up. That could be really good.
And that's, for us, that's thinking outside the room. That's different than just redoing or remaking it, renovating it. That really is transformational thinking.
But that, adds an upper room concept that says for people who really feel that sense of commitment to prayer, that there could be people that might see part of their ministry being during worship or before the sermon or something like that, to really see it as a vital part of their ministry to pray for worship. And then when you talk about Malawi, there's a way of doing prayer called concerts of prayer, where you put the prayer intentions that you take on Wednesday nights. People can turn in their prayer intentions for the prayer ministry to read and pray over. Well, if there's a bulletin board in here or something else, we could display prayer intentions and have a way for people that come into this room to pray to be continuing the prayer ministry of Wednesday night Bible study. So there's so many ways that people who feel that calling to the ministry of prayer.
Thank you for your attention. Look for additional video reflections in the future. And if you have comments or questions or other rooms you'd like us to visit, you can post that to the White Rock YouTube channel or to our Facebook page. Joy.